it's a real problem. I'm sure Christie's going to talk about that today too. I admire her. I've known her for, geez, I don't know, about 15 years maybe. I'm thinking maybe 12. And she's all about community and helping each other, and that's what I want to center on with her today. She's going to talk about her whistleblower, things she's done, but mainly I want to keep it positive with her. So anyway, without further ado, I'll bring her on here. Hopefully she can hear us. Christie, are you there?
I'm here.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, I'm awesome. How are you guys?
Doing good. Hi, Christie.
Uh-oh. We're getting echo now.
Uh-oh.
Frank's echoing, and I'm echoing. So anyway, hopefully that can be taken care of somehow. Maybe it's your setup, Christie.
That's absolutely possible. It would just be right up on par with the old days, getting interrupted every show I tried to do.
I don't think, I believe there's conspiracies, but I don't think they're as vast as maybe we'd like to think they are.
Well,
I told this, I was just telling the people and Frank about this woman I talked to for 6 hours the other day, and she's into the mind control and whatever, and I go, well, how come they really didn't get to me? I haven't been bothered, for the most part. It's kind of interesting, but anyway, the echo's gone away. Frank, Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Okay,
I think we're our problem solved. So anyway, Christie, I admire you. I just told the people that I've known you for 15 years?
It's been a while, and I have had a few brain injuries in that time, so I can't remember exactly.
You're probably doing better than I am.
I'm getting it back, but I do know some of our mutual connections, but I honestly don't remember the day. I know it was during all of this stuff we're going to talk about here tonight, but it's been a wild ride, hasn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, I told you or mentioned to you that we'd like to talk about your whistleblower matter, but I want to keep it positive, probably the second hour, which is about a half hour away. I'd want to center on your community spirit and how you help people. You've done a lot of that over the last few years.
I have, but the really cool thing about it is that it's all interrelated, because I would not be who I am today and doing what I'm doing now if it wasn't for the abuse that I suffered. So to me, talking about it, I'll be honest with you, if I sound a little anxious, it's because it does trigger PTSD. However, the facts are I was deleted, erased, killed, censored, slandered on international media for a reason, and on every single news channel. And I think it's important to note, I don't know if you know this, LB, but this is my 11-year anniversary of my first death. And that's when Anna Nicole Smith died. And she was the #1 news channel on every station. Well, I was the #2 story on every single. So obviously everybody's watching because there's this hot chick. And then, well, there's another hot chick. But, oh, wait, she's a racist, domestic terrorist, child abusing, whatever, prostitute, drug, every single name in the book. So I think it's all actually positive because it helped me become who I am. When all of this started, I was very programmed into the system. I believed that, I was brought up to think that my family, military general and SEAL and O&I and Secret Service are heroes. And then I found out that it wasn't true. And in fact, the Migrant March videos that have recently been reposted show very, I was programmed. I believed that police were there to protect us. I I had no idea what I was walking into, and it certainly was a hornet's nest, but I'm super grateful. And if that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't have been disabled. If I wouldn't have been disabled and that wouldn't have happened, and I wouldn't have been slandered and blacklisted and sabotaged and unable to get help and lost my job. And like, if I still had insurance, I might still be going to doctors and taking their drugs and getting worse and probably dead today. So I think it's a wonderful story how it all plays together to make it to where now I'm, the only reason I can help other people is because I learned to help myself.
Sure.
So thanks for having me on to talk about it. It's first time I've been Delusion Radio in a while.
Yeah. You had me on a couple of your shows a while back, but you haven't done radio for some years now. But I appreciated that quite a bit. But we never really hooked up and started working together, per se. But you've had your own problems that I know about. I'll let you talk about it. I don't want to disclose anything that you're not willing to talk about. So I guess you just have the floor here. Huh?
I'm willing to talk about anything. And if anyone else, I don't know if you take callers or if there's a chat room and people have questions. I've been accused of a lot of things, and I'm certainly not afraid of any of that, and any question on anything I have no problem telling. In fact, the deeper the questions, the better, because most often the deeper I go, those interviews get scrubbed. So go as deep as you want to go, pretty please.
Maybe I'll let Frank run this, because I think you two have been chatting quite a bit the last week or two. And it'd be kind of more of a neutral, fresh, a fresh approach to it than having me do it, because I know your history a little bit, but I'm, not. I'm sure I'll learn a lot today. So, anyway, Frank, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you you heard me say you've been chatting with Christie?
Well, we've been chatting a bit, and she was presenting me with a lot of her videos that she has, that I think they messed with some of them, Christie, because some of them I can play and some of them I cannot. I guess it might be the way my computer's set up. I can play the MP3s or the MP4s of videos, but some of that stuff I just can't access it. I wanted to talk to you about that, but I think did you say something about them taking they got broke into your house, or they?
Yeah. So I was raided on February 8th, 2007. That was just a few days after that first video you saw that's now uploaded on Daily Motion.
Right.
And so they stole all our computers, all my media, discs, cameras, kids' computers, everything. Fortunately, I was new to learning how to operate this type of camera. Thank God. It was a new kind that came out, and then they never redid it, but it was an Enviro HD, and it had its own special hard drive, and you had to have technical knowledge to be able to transfer and convert. And I knew nothing about computers or any of this when all this happened. So fortunately, because of my ignorance, I gave the camera to someone who had downloaded and made discs of the important stuff at that time. That would be the sex trafficking ring and all the wonderful police involved in the cover-up, and other human rights agencies and social justice warriors and all of this stuff. So after the raid, I was provided with those discs again. But in the meantime, I have gone through no less than 15 computers that were hacked. And the person who, we'll call him the record keeper, who was there and had everything documented, he was killed. But thankfully, I guess I have some I don't know, pretty strong protection forces around me. And I was able to preserve that, and through other people's help. So now that I am no longer homeless, which again, they engineered all because of this, but once I overcame, which was less than 2 months ago, finally, and have internet, and I'm able to get all of these things back, I am definitely ready to repost the story, you know, share everything and why I was erased and deleted and killed, because the story turned into me just being a domestic terrorist, racist child abuser, and everyone took that and ran with it. And the interesting part is the people who did the most damage in running with that story were your alternative media heroes. All the people that people trust to say, protect you from deception. And they were the ones going around doing these things. So, you know, I learned a crazy lesson finding out that, you know, the feds and the cops are all working together with social justice warriors, with obviously mainstream media and alternative media. And it was a huge wake-up call in many ways. Again, I'm super grateful for it, but I paid a heavy price. So my house was raided. From that time on, every time I made a public appearance, didn't matter what it was for. If I was trying to, say, videotape a public event or show up at a park or go to a new job, it did not matter. When I was in public, I was treated the way you saw in those videos.
I saw that. Yeah, that was pretty harsh. And then the cops were protecting those people.
Yep.
The police department, and then even in one of them, they were wearing the flag of Mexico. The cops. Yes, the cops had a flag of Mexico on their chest,
while acting as feds.
Right. They were well, I was what do they say, assigned by the federal
authority, by the federal government, to deny us the ability to walk on a public street. Just us, people, and couple people that they were told, the one who exposed the sex trafficking ring run by the cops. And here's the thing, the social justice warriors and all these human rights groups were like, you know, oh, the poor guys, you know, living in the canyon and blah, blah, blah. But they were promoting that. They never did anything to help them live in humane conditions. And people who did, or, you know, so it's just so easy these days. You call someone a racist and that's it. That's all you have to do. And nothing you have to say is valid or worthy, even if it's on video.
And you know, they do that too for anybody that you know, for CPS. Anybody can complain to them, and they come in there, and I've seen them ruin people's lives. I've been through the ringer quite a few times myself. From it, just some meddling neighbor.
That's what happened next.
Right.
So I don't know how many of the links or videos and things I sent you that you got, but within there's the people who called, and, you know, so the calls were coming from thousands of miles away. Like literally people I have never once met in my life. And so, yeah, it's pretty interesting what could happen. And what happened there, this was 2010, April 10, or was it 10 or 12, April 12. And I was on the radio. This is my second police encounter on live radio, by the way. The first one, they burned me with laser weapons, which was not only live on radio, but also caught on video. And then this time, no warrant, no charges, no investigation, no anything, walked through my 3 doors, the outdoor gate, the front porch, and then the front door. my children are like screaming and, you know, whatever. They grabbed me. They're running, asking for help. The neighbors came over, one of them being the record keeper and another one that knew what was going on. And of course, everyone all got arrested. And then 24 hours later, they came up with the story, which they ended up changing later. But so the initial story, of course, I'm this like dangerous white supremacist that thankfully the Southern Poverty Law Center finally caught up with, and that I locked my children out and tied them to a tree and, you know, like ordered someone to beat them or something. But my children were in the home begging for help, kissing me, you know, grabbing me when they're trying to take me in the, you know, dude, it was insane. But I'll tell you what, so they came up with those charges 24 hours later. And so I was charged 7 felonies, facing 56 years in prison. It was felony educational neglect because we homeschooled, and that was 2 counts for 2 children. Felony medical neglect because we didn't do drugs and vaccines. That was another 2 counts for 2 children. And then a general neglect, another 2 counts for 2 children. And I don't remember right now what the 7th charge was. It might have been like resisting cops breaking into my house. I don't remember, but I, again, could get no help. I ended up fighting them alone. I won, but I still lost because the damage was done. My children were, I'll tell you what, within 2 weeks, they were not my children anymore. I mean, and LB, if you remember, I posted all the pictures, everything as it happened. So you knew what we all looked like before, and then you know what they looked like after. And then all of a sudden, pierced and wearing makeup and dressed like whores and taking pills and yeah. So, I mean, so the family was done. I beat him in court. Yeah, blah, 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 woo-hoo. But that was the end. I have not had a family since. I'm sure I saw that somebody posted on one of your posts on Facebook. They want to know, did we ever reunite? Yes and no, not as a family, but we visited, spent time together. One of my babies came and visited me for a couple of weeks when I was in Florida and, you know, things like that. But it's different because they believe that I'm this dangerous domestic terrorist that, I mean, and you know, like it was even in their papers that the reason I'm abusing my children is because I lied to them and told them that cops rape little girls, and that I lied to them about chemtrails, and I lied to them about the dangers of vaccines, and I lied to them about the dangers of drugs. Well, of course, they're taken away and in that mentality and being forced all that. So yeah, they were completely mind controlled, and then I was turned into the devil. And they're pretty mainstream. One of them is, you know, I'm impressed. And when we did start talking again, they would call and ask my advice for health issues and cooking recipes, and even cops, and like tell me how they were standing up in school. Like, you know, so of course they sent them to public school, and they would be taught that, you know, we have to go to war and kill Muslims and, you know, all of these things. And then they'd come to me and be like, can you believe this? And then they said marijuana causes deaths and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, so they probably have a little bit of our life together. And at one point I got to send them like hundreds and hundreds of pictures of our real life together, which was beautiful and magical. But, yeah, so while I won in court, I mean, this whole thing, let me tell you, before the sex trafficking ring, I had a pretty normal life. Not that I'm proud of it, but, you know, I wanted my mommy and daddy proud of me. And I just did all I knew growing up in the city of San Diego and watching TV and all of going to doctors and taking everything they told me to, you know, all the medicine and, but, you know, whatever. So I'm super thankful for all of these experiences because now I know. But again, it was super harsh lessons. I lost every single thing, no family, even my own mother. Well, why are you meddling? And, just leave it alone. Like, like I should just let the little girls be raped because, just walk away. I'm sorry, but when you know that's going on and you see that with your own eyes, if you are one of those losers, cowards that walk away, I mean, that's your business, but don't try to force that on me because that's not who I am. I am not one to walk away from injustice. But again, I paid a dear price. I would do it again in a heartbeat. And yeah, I don't know what else to say right now.
Yeah, Frank and I were talking before we brought you on about we adopted H.L. Mencken's knowledge, courage, and honor. And, I get criticized, or we as PAC, the coalition, get criticized for not having a lot of people on board. And it just boils down to people don't have knowledge, courage, and honor. They're not interested in it. So that's why we haven't gotten thousands or, tens of thousands of people working with us.
That's why nobody could stand up for me. Even people that knew the truth, even people that were there when people were shooting people, they still had to deny the truth that they saw because they made an example out of me. And nobody wanted to end up like that. And I just thought of something that I think is also crucial to the story. And this would include people, activists. And not just people claiming to be social justice warriors anywhere, so-called pro-American law-abiding citizen groups, things like that. What you need to know, and this entire story proves it, which is 100% documented, anyone that calls me or contacts me and wants any of these videos, these PDFs, these audios, you can have them. I'm not joking. I want everyone to have what I was killed for. But this proves unequivocally, without a doubt, not only the collusion with the cops, the feds, the social justice warriors, but also the groups. So you mentioned Minutemen, and I did spend a short time with them. I was, kind of programmed and colluded. And, there's kind of more to the story, too. I was a very good trained slave at the time. So whatever. And I started dating Jeff and whatever. So I was kind of thrown into this thing that I probably never would have stumbled across if it wasn't for that. But okay, so I'm going to use this for an example, the Minutemen, or even We Are Change, or any of these groups that are supposedly fighting for whatever. They're not only working with the other side, they usually are the feds that created them, but it goes a step further. So you have these groups, and then all of a sudden the leaders split, and they have this fight, right? And you're like, oh my God, and then everybody's forced to take sides, and you're like, oh, stop the infighting. Well, first of all, it's not infighting, it's COINTELPRO, number one. Number two, these are staged freaking fights, okay? This is what you need to understand, and it's to divide you even further. And then all of a sudden, so you have one group, and then all of a sudden with the Minutemen, there were like hundreds of them, or We Are Change, there were hundreds of them. And I can name millions of them, even the pro, like the Border Angels, they all split. And the guy in the video that was on the other side, J. Johnson Castro, I love that man. So we started working together. Well, guess what? He was no longer allowed to be on the other side, and other people weren't allowed to protest at We Are Change anymore. And it just, so they also, when they joined, all these people that had supposedly fought, and I guess I'll just say names so people who are aware can get the context, but it was started with like Stephen Eichler, Jim Gilchrist, and Chris Simcox, and then there was like Jeff Schwelk and all these other smaller guys, and they're all the leaders working together. Then they all had their big fights, and then they have these bigger groups and more money and more control. But while they pretended on the surface that they were against each other because, each other is corrupt, they all joined together on paper and publicly to stand against me, to warn the country against me, the one, again, that exposed the sex trafficking ring, and also had people on video shooting people. Yeah. So what's up with that?
I was thinking about whistleblowers or people that are trying to stop corruption. And of course, one of the most famous ones in American history is Serpico out of New York. He was with the New York Police Department, and he paid the price. He had to actually leave the United States.
Oh, yeah.
They tried to kill him.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that these things go on. But,
yeah, I mean, I don't want to waste a whole lot of time talking about that, but I'll just say I was disabled in an instant. And this was in San Diego after I said no to certain people. And I'm just going to say it because I know this show won't be scrubbed. I was offered a deal and to be paid off by the ACLU and the FBI. And I said, PHUCKU. I don't make deals with the devil. Bye-bye. A week later, I was in my home, standing healthy, strong, blah, 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 doing our things. And in an instant, I was disabled into infantile condition, could not use my arms or legs, could not utter a coherent word. My children feeding and clothing me. Yeah. So that was the first time that they did whatever they did. And I miraculously, 8 months later or whatever, I got out of a wheelchair. I recovered from that. That's when I got my PhD in metaphysics and ended up becoming a holistic health coach and teaching people that Mother Nature / God is smarter than man and, teaching people how to heal. But then I healed too many people, so things got worse again. I went down to Florida. I allegedly contracted neuroinvasive West Nile viral encephalitis. My brain blew up. I lost my memory, my ability to talk and walk. I was completely abandoned, left for dead. And let me tell you what happened right before this. The stalkers, the alternative media people that work for the military, yep, guaranteed. They deleted my YouTube channel, my Facebook, my all means of contact. I was on the road. They did this purposefully, and they did this by filing fake trademark and fake copyright complaints. So and YouTube or Facebook or nobody ever sent like, hey, you're messing up, you can fix it, or, this person complained. Nope, they just deleted, erased, did not respond to any email or inquiry from anyone, and they came from dozens of people. So then, so I was like really isolated then because I didn't have an online thing. And at the time, I never used a cell phone. So I had my phone on the trips, but, so because I didn't use a cell phone, I didn't have people's numbers. And then that's when I got sick and they sent the hitman after me. And then I ended up in the hospital 10 days, blah, 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 got out. I couldn't, I didn't even know my neighbors. And then they sent cops of 2 counties after me because I'm allegedly dangerous, and then locked me up in this mental jail type thing, not even a mental institution. And that's a different story. They get federal funds, $1,500 a day to hunt people down. And I was literally saved from that miraculously by an angel. You don't understand. People go into those places and they don't come out. But I don't know if I should tell the whole story. I'll just say this. So when they line you up and try to force you to take your drugs, I looked at the dude straight in the eye and I said, look, I was just released from the hospital. I have a brain infection. I am not supposed to be here. I don't take those drugs. There is nothing wrong with me. If you want to give me drugs, please give me the medication I need for my brain. He took me seriously, he said, hang on, my wife works at that hospital. Go stand at the end of the line. I'll see what I could do. He called her and illegally got my records there to prove that what I was saying was true. He immediately had the psychotropics canceled where everybody else was getting like chained to tables and injected. And there were like 3-day doses, 7-day doses, 30-day doses, shit like that. Yeah. Oops, sorry. I didn't mean to say that. But so somehow I miraculously made it out of there. But yeah, they either used viruses and know for a fact sent hitman. Like I saw my dossier. It was quite a ride. And so the homelessness thing, again, was engineered, but then it got to a point where people would pretend to be my friends and say, hey, come over here. If you build my gardens, you can stay here for free. Or, hey, the rent's super cheap, move in here. And, I'd pay for 2 months. And then after I do whatever they need me to do or something, then, I'll just say this. I moved 30 times since Branson, and it was not for fun. It was literally like running for my life, with exception of this very last move less than 2 months ago. It's the first move that I've made that I wasn't running from somebody. So yay, I feel pretty safe now. To kind of sum up the dangers I've experienced the last dozen years. I'm not naive. I'm not completely safe. I know there's people still there. I know, but yeah, I'm healthy. I'm talking, I'm walking, I'm working, and I'm getting better every day. So
that's all good.
Yeah, it's a big difference today than 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I mean, literally 3 years ago, I couldn't hold a conversation or mutter a word. Or if I could mutter a word, say, and had a conversation with you, 3 minutes later, 30 seconds later, I wouldn't even remember that I had seen you in like weeks or months. And that's how we found out how bad my brain was, because one of the ladies, my neighbors, came by and I'm like, oh, how's Susan? I haven't seen her in a while. And she looks at me like I have 6 heads. They knew I was sick. They knew I was sicker than I knew I was. But yeah, she looked at me and she's like, Christie, we were just in your house making you juice this morning. Are you sure you don't want to go to the hospital? So then I got bit by a brown recluse on the back of my neck, and I really had no choice. When I ended up in the hospital, I resisted, but I couldn't resist anymore. So yeah, but there was no help. I mean, I didn't die, but I was drugged up and then pushed into this other thing, which also happened when I was hospitalized in California. 3 different agencies were sent after us, and I was only saved by that one, again, because of another angel. It's insane. Like, when you become targeted by these people, I used to think that if I left the border, I would be safe. I'll just move to some small town, but it's not. And I heard you talking about the dangers of the internet, and that's how all of that's disseminated. Every time I moved or left, people would post my pictures, they'd post their videos and their crazy stories about how dangerous I am, and making really good, concerned citizens feel like they're doing a good thing by going out of their way to hurt me, whether it's dismantling or hurting my car or, whatever it was. That's, it's been crazy, but the good news is I'm in a safe place. I'm not experiencing those types of things right now, the slander stuff, that stuff. It'll always go on, whatever. And in a way, it's a blessing, because it shows me who the real people are, not only by the people disseminating the false information, but the people that fall for it so easily. Like, who would want to befriend somebody that was that easily manipulated anyways?
Right. I think that's the whole movement's problem. People in general, they're gullible.
Yeah.
And they have no discernment, and that's why PAC adopted the saying or statement, PAC is for the discerning soul. I don't know. It's pretty sad how
people are
bad things are.
repeaters.
Yeah.
They just do what their leader or whoever tells them, and that's what it all boils down to. It's people wanting to give their power away. And I'm not knocking it. I totally, completely understand it. We grow up in a programmed world. I wanted to. I believed in presidents and, all of these great authorities, and yeah, I grew up that way. I understand how we are programmed into that. And I get it, but look, if anybody thought for themselves and actually looked at things realistically, it's a choice. I believe that it all boils down to people's fear of their own power, finding out who they really are, how strong they really are, and it's just easier to circumvent the decision making to some authoritative personality, a suit, a badge, a uniform, a star, someone on TV, someone with a pretty shiny photoshopped face.
Yeah, I think a lot of people use the excuse, well, that hasn't happened to me. That's never happened to me. I've never known anybody that's happened to, because it really hasn't ever happened to them, because they're compliant.
They told the line and walk the
right. They're
the plank of the system.
Exactly. Why don't you just get a job? Why don't you just why don't you just obey?
How many jobs I mean, people really thought that, if you're just not in radio, or if you just don't talk about it, or if you just go get a job, they'll leave you alone. Dude, they didn't leave me alone in the hospital. I was in fact, in Florida, I was in a high security room. I mean, I even had stalkers in the hospital. People had to have a code. So I get that people don't believe it. It doesn't happen to them. But let me ask you this, Frank. You already admitted that I sent you hundreds of files. Is anything that I have said misleading in any way?
No, it just takes a while to put it together. Kind of. I like to get it in order in my mind as to what actually happened. But this is helping. This actually helps. And plus, I went to your other page that you sent me. The what is that? Daily Motion. There's a whole bunch of them there, and I've started there. I'm able to see those. We're coming up on a break right now, so we're gonna have to continue this conversation after the break.
America's Road Home. Anyway, suppose you're an idiot, and suppose you are a member of Congress. But I repeat myself. That is Mark Twain. Anyway, to deal with legislatures, PAC is about having you understand that your national legislature is Congress. They control you through your political agreement under the 14th Amendment. And that's been my mantra for going on 20 years now. I haven't changed anything that I professed. And like I said last hour, and I've said before, I started understanding what the problem was when I stopped listening to other people. So anyway, we're talking with Christie Aphrodite today, and she's telling us her woes of she's experienced since she's become a truth seeker herself. So anyway, back to what she's about, and I don't mind talking about the things she's gone through, but I also want to hit this hour the positive things she's done. But we don't have to do that right this moment. She can continue on at the favor of what she wants to do as far as talking about her past experiences and the problems. They are a problem. I said I haven't been bothered. That's not true. To a point, locally or in person, I haven't been bothered, but the internet, they've trashed me a lot. I mean, between taking PAC's page down off Wikipedia within 2 days because it had too much truth in it, and various web attacks or site attacks on the internet, and false postings. There's been plenty of that. So yeah, I've had my share of dealings with these evil people Christie's talking about. Anyway, back to you, Christie. Where were we anyway?
Yeah, I'm game for whatever, wherever. And I just want to say, sharing my woes and troubles and this and that, I don't view them that way anymore. I talk about them only as a message of overcoming and accomplishment. And again, talking about what you, I guess, want to gear towards, whether it's the healing, medicine making, whatever, the more natural life. I mean, again, it all happened because of this. So I'm extremely grateful, and I have a great respect for the high honor that I was entrusted with on that difficult path. So.
Yeah, I didn't mean to degrade or diminish, what you've gone through.
Oh, of course. So. I just want to clarify that, because sometimes, and I sound passionate because I am. And I mentioned earlier, I get a little anxious talking about it because, the PTSD, but it's not that I don't, I want to overcome all of that and the anxiety associated with it. And again, it's people will be like, oh, don't talk about it. You're just, why are you complaining? I'm like, I'm not complaining. I'm just sharing because so many people are in this situation or worse, and they think there's no way out. And I was one of those people that thought there was no way out, that they're so much bigger than me. And anyone who saw or is yet to see the whole story, it's mind-boggling, it's mind-blowing, and you'll probably be thinking like, oh my God, she's never going to make it. And it's crazy that I did, but that's my message today, is that we can survive anything. So whether it's the family I was born to, the programming, the MK Ultra there, whether it was the government and blah, blah, blah coming down on you, or the stupid stalkers or insignificance, things like that, your children taking, like the illnesses, like all of these things that people look at as insurmountable, they in fact are not insurmountable. And being that I had to go through all of those things at the same time, completely alone, I'm living proof that anyone can survive anything. So I would hope that, people made me into an example, and that silenced a lot of people. And I feel horrible for that, because this is why. You are only as sick as your secrets. And when you sell out your soul, say, to stay silent on whatever somebody paid you off for, or to keep a job, or this and that, you will pay for it with your physical body. And that's where, I guess it's kind of a good segue into, the healing, because people think when they come to me, because again, we're so used to going to doctors, and I have this issue, what do I take? Well, let me tell you something. 99% of the time, it's not what you take. It's what you take away. What are you doing that's causing whatever the issue is? And it is not just physical. I do not deal with people that look at illness as only physical. It's a waste of my time, because they're not going to improve. And when people come to me, I want that to be the last session they ever need with anyone, ever. You know what I mean? Like, if somebody wants to come back to me after they have a session with me, I would consider that an insult. And I mean, there's a few different levels here. If it's for a physical issue and they came back to me, then I failed. And people need to look at that when you go to healers or doctors or this and that. And even the alternative, holistic industry, it's turned into the same thing in mainstream. They're prescribing herbs or this and that. And then you go to the store and you buy those same pills. It's like the exact same programming, and those pills aren't even natural. So my approach is eliminate the middleman in all areas of your life, like what you do legally, okay, and what I do or preach in every other aspect of life, whether it is your food supply or, really, I think that's the key to everything. Eliminate the middleman. And that's how we build community and share knowledge and love one another and help and find out the truth instead of, look, the only reason people treated me the way they did is because they believed what some stranger said about another stranger. And the only reason that happens is because we live a disconnected, unnatural life. What are we disconnected from? Well, all that which is natural. When it comes to healing and learning the secrets, look to nature. Let's say you cut off a worm, their tail or whatever. What happens? They grow it back. You know, any issue that goes on in Mother Nature, these people grow their body parts, people, I'm calling them. Yeah, but they grow their body parts back. Why do they grow their body parts back? Because they're eating a natural diet. We are the only species on the planet that regularly are disconnected from our source. And once we eliminate the middleman, again, get away from the cells, get away from the every cell. I meant cell phones, the job cells, the family cells, literally every cell or every prison that you've put yourself in. And that's the ultimate remedy, to use your term, when it comes to health and healing.
That's right. I can't argue one part of that. So
I've seen so many people, and this is, it's terrible. And I feel bad for them, but again, it's the life they choose to lead. And again, that's another reason why my story does have to be shared in its entirety, because we think that people live in fear. They're afraid to do and live the life that they're meant for because of fear. So whether it's fear of government, whether it's fear of not having a paycheck and, oh my God, what if I become homeless, or fear, whatever it is. What if people look at me funny? I can't talk about this. I can't say that. Or
right.
And you know what? It is causing illness. What is the worst thing that's going to happen? I'll tell you the worst thing that's going to happen. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to end up like me. Check out my videos on youtube.com/Christie Aphrodite. It's actually not a bad place to be. You'll see the suffering, you'll see the tears, you'll see the crying, you'll see the shame, but you'll also see the triumph. Okay, so when you feel you can't overcome whatever it is you can, and I know for a fact, and I learned through this process that I went through the last few years, when I ended up in Florida, I was the picture of health, all right, or what we all thought health is. The diet, the glowing skin, blah, blah, blah. When I left Florida, I was a decrepit, dying little, I was unrecognizable. And not only that, let me tell you something. Everything I thought I knew about health, I wouldn't say was wrong, but I'll say did not work. Do you know why it didn't work? Because I was missing the other layers, the pain, the trauma, the not being allowed to speak, the not being, so once I figured that out and started using discernment in people that I chose to surround myself with, my physical illnesses went away just by me changing a physical environment or who I was hanging out with at the time. So sometimes that included making myself homeless by leaving a castle. Sometimes that included me leaving a job where I was being abused or some other stifling, soul-crushing condition. Yes, there was fear involved. However, the risk completely outweighed the pain that I was already living, right? So whatever the hell I was living I couldn't live it anymore. So what other choice did I have but to take the risk and go forth? And yeah, so the secrets of nature really it has the key to every single thing we want to heal. And I wish this knowledge for everyone.
Amen.
Yeah, I found
words.
I found that out too. If you want to stay healthy, stay away from doctors.
Exactly. I have to tell a little tale here again. So when I became this racist domestic terrorist child abuser, of course I lost my job and I had no health insurance, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. What's going to happen if I'm not dependent on all of these people that care for me so much? I'm going to tell you how I got into this. Okay, so there I was, like, oh my God, I have no insurance, whatever. I'm just going to sit here and die. Clearly, I was depressed, and my children are feeding and clothing me. And I want to add this too. I'm in a sports museum. Okay, so I'm not this weak little person that's used to being dependent. So there I was, dependent. One of my friends said, if I sent a masseuse to your house, would you let her work on you? And I'm like, dude, right on. Okay, sure. Well, turns out she was a native healer. And she's like, you're really toxic. Your blood's blah, blah, blah. Speaking this language I didn't understand because I was a nutrition major in school and exercise science, physical therapy. I knew everything mainstream, right? And she's like, you need to go pick those dandelions out in your yard and make a tea. And I'm just like, dude, whatever you're smoking, can I please have some? That was like the craziest thing I'd ever heard. Because again, growing up in the city, don't touch it, it's poison, blah, blah, blah. So my children went out and picked 6 or 7 dandelions, made me a tea. And I have since referred to dandelion as the gateway drug. The very next day when I drank the tea, there was a marked improvement. Like I could not walk, but I felt so good. I was ready to walk. And so what I did, I started doing push-ups. I was on the floor and doing mat work. And so now I'm unusually flexible because of that. But so that's how I started to find out that Mother Nature was smarter than man.
Did you ever notice that that it's demonized? That comes off as the dandelions. Oh, that's a weed. Pull it out.
Yeah.
Well, that's so you can have your beautiful house and beautiful wife.
Well, and of course, chicks with long hair that play with herbs were witches, and we must be burned.
Yeah, right.
I lived in the Bible Belt. I've experienced that firsthand.
Yeah, there's a lot of hang-ups like that. They're still kind of linger in the Bible Belt.
You know what, though? It all boils down to the programming. And if anybody knew to discern, talk to someone in the Bible. Like people, they would say, oh my God, you use herbs and that's so weird. And I would be like, well, why aren't you using God's medicine? You're going to trust a sorcerer in a white coat giving you a synthetic pill, isolating a compound from Mother Nature. That doesn't work. And that's cool. Everybody can choose what they want to do. I'm not a pusher. I'm there for people who are at the end and are ready to give up everything they think they know, which is a really tough pill to swallow. It's super easy, though. That's the thing. And when you simplify health, their head spins because they don't believe that it's so easy. But it really is. And, if we, especially people in the Bible Belt, if we come as little children, we would have that innocence and that knowing, that connection to nature. We would know what's right or what's wrong without a dude in a dress or badge or something else telling us what we need to do for ourselves, what's best for us.
Well, yeah, that's something else too. It's people, that fear comes in because somebody's wearing a uniform or a white coat or something like that. And because of that, they're the authority.
We bow down in an instant, don't we?
I know it.
Oh, well, my doctor said this, or oh, he said that. Or like the videos, the migrant march. Well, the police is the law. Don't you do it?
Well, no,
not funny. If it's unlawful.
That was funny though. I mean, I was just looking at that guy going, is this guy real? Is he for real saying that? You know, when the police tell you to do something, don't you obey? You know, like or the police are the law. You know, they are the law. And I'm like, is this guy for real? You know?
Dude,
So
everyone needs to see those videos, and I'm not exaggerating. It's just if people want to see, you know, because people get lost in again, there's always all these sides involved in every issue, and people get involved in fighting with the people that they think believe something different without ever actually talking to the people themselves and not realizing that their leaders or the people giving them the orders to hate on whoever they're supposed to hate on, you know, are working for the exact same people they think they're fighting against. So you know, it's not only that, just the abuse under color of law. Just there were so many dynamics at work in those videos that, you know, people live in a bubble and they think that they're safe in their little neighborhood and whatever. But this is not exclusive to me. I am not the only person that these things happen to. These things happen on the streets. Okay, these can happen on your streets. And I would hope that other people are better prepared for these shocks than I was. I was so naive and innocent and just like, whoa, okay, sure, I'll walk over you. You know, I had no idea what I walked into. But people, especially activists, I know activists, people are concerned about whatever issue, but you're only being fed part of the story. If you want to be effective, you're not going to be effective in whatever you're supporting by screaming at your neighbors on the streets, period. Okay, it's like, for example, I have friends which there was one, like, I had to ditch. I've known her for like 30 years, but she's on this Trump hating thing, and just because I'm not a Trump hater doesn't mean I'm a Trump lover. Okay, I'm just sick of that bull crap. But anyway, so she would say, oh yeah, he's such a jerk. He's taking food away from senior citizens, from Mexicans, from children, from poor people. He's, you know, he's outlawing people's, you know, all of these things. And she's literally paralyzed on the computer, hating on that all day long, repeating ridiculous headlines. And I'm like, dude, why don't you go outside and feed some of those people you think that he's not feeding now? Go, like, share, you know, go ask your senior citizen neighbor if you can frickin' shovel their driveway. Like, go outside and feed those homeless people that are 2 blocks away from you. Like, don't, you know, there's just so many more effective ways that we can deal with the issues like up close and we can solve the issues anytime we choose to get off our butts, and that's fact. And we're not going to solve the issues by begging somebody else to be nice. Right? And
right.
like begging a doctor to, oh, help me get off this pill, or begging you know, some authoritarian to save you or protect you. That doesn't happen. Yeah.
Right. We gotta take self-responsibility.
Exactly. That's what it's about. Like, you can complain about GMO foods till you're blue in the face. That's great. What are you doing about it? Go outside, plant a garden, problem solved. Oh, but the air is poison, the water is poison, blah. You know what? Whatever you can grow in your so-called poisoned air yard is way better than you can get by supporting slave labor and, again, genetically modified corporations and things like that in the store. My garden healed me. Okay, there's stupid excuses that are keeping you from finding your true power. Not only can you grow your own food, you can make your own medicine. And even without knowing anything, I guarantee if you have a yard, every weed that's in that yard growing right now is there for your benefit. Find out what it is. Use it.
Yeah, my wife's been researching a lot of those native plants of Texas that are, healthy type stuff that you can, and they're just wild. They're everywhere, um, which is pretty cool because we'll be taking a walk and she'll be, oh yeah, you can eat that. And she'll point at it. Yep, that's it. She'll look real close at it. Yeah, that's just like I saw. That's just like the picture that he showed. I don't know what a lot of that stuff is, but we've always been ones to, take care of ourselves. Be a little bit more independent, not so dependent on everybody else to for the answers. Find them. Get out there and find them for yourself. There's a good old saying that kind of goes along with what you were talking about, the GMOs, foods is, vote with your wallet. Don't buy that crap.
It's so simple. It really is. And I'm over the days of hearing, and, I was in radio over a decade, and it started off, I was shocked finding out the problems. And then we went through all the problems, and then it's like, okay, well, do I just get stuck in this loop and keep having the same old guests on every show, repeating the same old blah, blah, blah that's been going on the same, all these decades? Or, so then I focused on, all right, we already know. So what do we do about it?
Right.
I don't need to tell you again, shit's poison. It is okay, so get over it. Stop crying. Fix it.
Well, what you said a few minutes ago about the fear, that's the bottom line. Fear. People's fear of anything, including doing the right thing, which is understanding how they've been deceived and conned into all these systems that we've talked about before and time and time again. The political system that's in place, the food system, the doctor systems, all these are meant to gain profit for a bunch of greedy types, and people are brainwashed to be using them, and that's again the bottom line of everything is the fear that's to depart from these things. So anyway,
it's like when folks don't talk about politics or religion. I got news for you. If you're a 14th Amendment citizen, you're in politics.
Yes.
Yeah, and as far as the other end of it, that's spirituality has really nothing to do with religion, in my opinion.
That's true.
That's between you and your creator, and so that necessarily doesn't necessarily have to be talked about. I guess you can, but when people say that about politics, I kind of got to laugh because you're in politics. That's what you are. It's a political system, and you've agreed to be in it.
Oh yeah, like I was telling this woman I talked to for several hours the other day, that the state is your religion, because the robes that the priests wear of the Catholic Church and so on, and the judges wear are called Geneva robes, and basically, everyone thinks they're practicing their own religion, but they're really not, because the state is the ultimate religion. And it's run by I go over this in my writings in the book a bit, but it's a synagogue of Satan. The whole system is. And people have been so deceived by all this. And like Frank just said, if you're, not claiming your rightful nationality, and taking that back, which has been stolen under color of law and fraud, you're agreeing to this religion called the state. And I might add that the Bible mentioned that the only true religion or honest or true religion is taking care of the widows and orphans. And I was looking at the Wisconsin Constitution this last week, and lo and behold, there was a section in the original 1848 Constitution of Wisconsin that said the state shall not allow lotteries and divorces. They should not legislate anything pursuant to that. What do we have today? I said to myself, who are these people? I know who they are. They're communist. They're Marxist. They've destroyed everything that America was 150 years ago. and they're imposters. They're playing like they're the lawful governments that were originally instituted, and they're not. And of course, I believe that the whole thing was set up to do what it's done anyway, progressively, to destroy, what once was. And the simple fact is the system in place now is nothing more than what Martin Luther was facing or challenging back, in the 1500s with the church. And of course, people came over here to get away from the church, and the church followed. And it gets deeper than that. It's all controlled ultimately by the synagogue of Satan. Of course, I'm talking the Bible, but again, Congress has recognized the Bible. And the people that don't, they've been taught to say it's full of stories and BS, but it's not. It's what's ruled the Western civilization and, Europe, and, many countries for 2,000 years. So you can't just say it's nonsense, because it's not. So it's controlling everything, good or bad. It's a fact. Anyway, I could go on forever with that, but fear and ignorance. Ignorance breeds fear. So if you're going to remain ignorant, if you don't have that knowledge, you're not going to have the courage to do anything. So it's all reciprocal, or a vicious cycle or circle. So anyway, I'm like I said, I'll go on for hours with that. But anyway, Frank, do you have any questions for Christie? No, I don't. I know we've had our debates on the internet, which I hate. I got kicked.
What do you hate?
Oh, I don't know. You tend to get into this
debating.
anarchy thing, which I'm totally against. It's bad, but
I just don't believe in giving my power away to anyone.
Well, that's simply
and
put.
I don't just talk it, though I live it. I
Right.
don't. Anarchists don't. And that's the thing. I used to believe that they were what is displayed on the media, and I thought that the socialists and the social justice warriors freaking out on me, I was told they were anarchists, and I thought that's what it was. But
like Frank and I have discussed, and I've mentioned or noted that, there's like 10,000 versions of what anarchy is, and basically,
but it's not a group. So true anarchy is just without rulers. So that's all. I'm not like promoting anything or any other than self-sufficiency, self-responsibility, and what works for each individual. I wouldn't force any of my beliefs or anything I do on anyone. I make choices in my life to be independent and free of, granted I am in the system somewhat. I have to drive a car to get to my minimum wage job, but I do like it. And because I drive the car, I have to have a license, and I have to have registration and insurance, and I don't like that. But the way it is it has to be that way for me right now, because as self-sufficient as I am in other areas, I am not financially sufficient. So unfortunately, I have to remain a slave in a number for now. Not because I want to, not because I believe it or in it, but I just do what I can so I can feed myself and wipe my butt. Like 4 years without an income and not knowing, being able to buy toilet paper wasn't fun. So I don't disagree with you, anything you do or anything you say at all. For the record, I just want to say that I respect it. I love it. I know people that do it. And again, I would do it if I was in a position where I didn't have to go to a job and do these things right now.
I appreciate that, and likewise, I don't disagree with anything that you do or say, except for that one little thing that.
It's okay.
I just
be free to disagree.
Anarchy's become fly in the ointment, so to speak.
Well,
It's created a breed of people that don't want to learn how to overtake all this properly. So that's why I have a real.
I agree
issue
with that.
I've heard so many I've heard so many different definitions of anarchy. You know, and of course, you know, like she said, it's the absence of rulers, of course. Um, but you know, we had a guy on the call. I don't know, it was 2 or 3 weeks back on the introductory call for PAC, and he was saying that anarchy was free stuff for everyone. Free place, free place to live, free clothes, free food, you know, all that kind of stuff. And he goes, and when everybody's basic needs like that are met, then we can move forward, you know. And I'm like, dude, that's socialism. I don't know who told you that was anarchy.
Yeah,
you know.
No.
Well, that's just another definition or belief that's BS. And you know, let's don't get stuck on this subject because it's ridiculous.
I say people promote lots of different things, and again, if they were true anarchists, they wouldn't be promoting it because it's an individual thing. So,
well, it's also
more on the lines of Lysander Spooner. So. Enough said. It doesn't entail anything. It just entails me taking care of myself, my loved ones, and my community. And that's all.
Right.
I try to not support corporations. I buy gas and I buy like toilet paper and stuff like that at Walmart. Why? Because it's the only place I can, and that sucks and I hate it.
Walmart's the evil empire.
Like, look, I moved to an area where we don't have stores, corporations, fast foods, banks. It's all local. It's all farmland. It's, you know, so I practice what I preach, and I have done what I can to be away from dependence. And that's unfortunately as far as I can go right now. But it's amazing. It's just so cool to be in a place where everyone grows, everyone raises food, medicine. They do for themselves. They build their own. You know, it's beautiful. People do things and they're not reliant on corporations except for maybe their monthly run to town to get toilet paper and basics, things that they don't provide themselves.
Yeah, it's about building community. It's about people working together in their local areas too, as well as taking care of themselves. You know, it used to be like that, you know, years ago, and now it's, you know, well, if I can find something cheaper over here 2 cities away, I'm going to go over there, you know, and get it. Not even considering the time and gas it takes to go get it. It's just more considering that, you know, the money's saved. Which is really just, you know, stepping over dollars to save pennies. In my opinion. Even
though I could like qualify for disability and all that stuff and be dependent on the system, I'm not. I don't, and I won't. So,
yeah,
you know, I mean, whatever. I have a license and I buy gas and I pay an insurance company so that I can. That's the most difficult aspect of my life, but whatever. I'm fed, I'm healthy, and I did it. So
yes.
Right. Well, everybody's got you know, that's a situation we're all in. Everybody's in that. You know, of course, LB is not, because he got himself out of that loop 20 years ago.
You did too, didn't you? Aren't you?
I haven't yet. I'm working toward that. They've got their claws into me right now too. So I'm kind of in a similar situation where, you know, I'm pulling those claws out.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Well, and
it takes time, you know.
Yeah, I was brainwashed too. I thought all that was what I was supposed to do. That was the American dream.
Yeah.
You know,
scheme. You mean?
Make good credit.
It's the American scheme.
Yeah, the American scheme. You know.
Yeah, you found out it was the American scheme.
I've always been kind of independent anyway. I wasn't one to go to college or to go to go get a job and, you know, work for 30 years and retire with a gold watch.
Yeah.
That wasn't me. You know, I needed more independence. So that's half the battle right there. I think that most people are unable to complete the process or at this time because they've got a job. They're stuck. They're in that rut. They got to have, they're depending on their employer to keep food on the table. I don't have anybody to look up to except myself, my wife and I. We take care of that. And if we don't, if things get slow, we got to hustle to get the work coming in.
Yeah,
So,
well, the problem is I've been criticized for years about getting people out of the system and they have no place to go, which is nonsense. Because there's ways to fight these people for getting work. Like I say, communists have jobs, men work. But there's ways around that. And the only other way that each individual doesn't have to overcome that is if we have a bunch of people working together. But the fear of these people is compounded by these people that are doing things wrong, and they're getting shot down or hurt or not hurt financially, not just hurt. I'm not talking about physically. I haven't seen anyone get hurt physically per se, but they get hurt in many other ways. And the only way you're going to overcome that is working together. And these island makers, as I call them, that are creating problems, they're going out there and not willing to help us expand things or work, so they're creating bad precedents. Just like
look, people don't want to do anything. Look how many so-called patriots and good concerned Americans, militia, all these people that supposedly supported me or what I was doing or the, exposing the agenda, etc. Nobody helped in any way. They watched
it's pathetic.
Go through all of that. They watched me go homeless. They watched me die in a hospital. They watched it like it was like I was free freaking entertainment. Not one of them. Well, no, there were a few angels along the way.
Sure.
But when I say not one of them, I'm referring to people that say I promoted or helped or worked with or said they wanted me back in, all of these things. Not one of them could say give up a nail appointment, a hair appointment, or a beer so that I could have toilet paper or food.
Exactly.
Yeah, I couldn't walk. I was on the freaking homeless, unable to walk and complete a coherent sentence. Yeah, stick together my butt. Nobody, they just watched it.
That's why I've been pushing before I got thrown off Facebook for the second time, which I'm done with that, people. I'm not going back on there. It's worthless. We could use it for a good tool, but everyone's so narcissistic and about themselves that it's just a dead end. But anyway, I was pushing the 7 deadly sins. Americans love every one of them. And it's really sad, that people are so about themselves. And that's why nothing's working for anything en masse. Like I've said for years, America won't be fixed until Americans fix themselves. And that's what Christie's all about. Yep. So that's it in a nutshell.
Right? Instead of, that's what I see, everyone going around trying to fix everyone else, but they haven't cleaned out their own closet.
Right. These, even the Bible thumpers, and I said to someone the other day about this thing that people say these days. You don't judge me. The Bible says you can't judge me. And I go, no, it doesn't say that at all. That thing that they're quoting says, don't be a hypocrite. Don't judge others unless you judge yourself first. So
to be judged.
Yeah, exactly. So people twist things around for their own benefit, and they're just in delusion. It's like the fairy tales they're taught when they're kids, Cinderella story and all this. Instead of truth and natural law or natural things like you talked about, Christie. Everyone's in this la-la land, instead of being real.
You reminded me of something hilarious when you said that. So when all this stuff started happening and they had to prove I was a bad mom, I was accused of child abuse for not celebrating Christmas the way other people did. Yeah. So I'm like, for me, I just couldn't lie to my children. You know, I couldn't tell them that the Easter bunny lays eggs and a dude is, you know, sliding down our chimney. I mean, I talked to them about the spirit of and history and things like that, but not, you know, like what it meant. But I didn't believe in having a $700 light bill to decorate my house or to kill another tree and max my credit cards for Jesus. It just, you know, and so I was open with my children like that. And so that was one of the first indicators of what a horrible mom I was.
Yeah, I'm not a Christian. You know, Jesus is a mentor, and
these people
that's
aren't
it.
Either.
I know they're not. Well, Christians, you know, Jesus didn't create Christians. You know, the church did basically.
Yeah.
And that's what Martin Luther fought about. You know, he discovered something that was monumental in the way the church was teaching things wrong, and they're still doing it today. So, you know, all these Christians, so-called Christians in America, are just false. You know.
Well, they're hypocrites because
they're hypocrites. Yeah.
They're following the evil plan. Yet they're Christians. They go to church every Sunday. You know, they donate their hard-earned tithing money to the church. And that church, how do you know what they spend it on? Do you know what they spend it on? Fancy cars. Look at Joel Osteen. He's one of them. Him and Kenneth Copeland and Jerry Savelle and Jesse Duplantis. All them guys. They're all a bunch of televangelists, and they're living high on the hog, and they taking your money. If you don't send us this $257 gift, you're not going to get your spot in heaven. You know, it's just a game. It's just another scam. It's a control mechanism. Fear not. You don't have to have fear. Government puts out the fear. The churches come in and take the fear away, as long as you pay them.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that other one, render under Caesar's. What is Caesar's? You know. Yeah. You know that one gets. That one's you know, manipulated as well. You know, what you have to do is you have to reinvent yourself. You got to take and peel back those layers of brainwashing that you've been brainwashed with, and that hurts people. It's like it's painful because they're comfortable. It's their comfort zone, and they're comfortable living that way. You know, the fear goes away because they've got that $10,000 credit card in their pocket. You know, they've got that line of credit that's coming down there. They just bought a new house. Well, yeah, you know, everybody's got to make a payment on a house. Really? Is that how it has to
works.
Be? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get criticized for not being materialistic.
Yeah, we got this comment in here. Church is just a place to show off your latest fashion. You know, look what I just. Oh
my God, that is so true. Oh yeah. Wow. That really hits home with me, that comment, because I went to those churches and just, I don't want to go into too much detail, but I'll just say the same church that Oprah Winfrey goes or used to. I don't know if she still does, but yeah, in Santa Barbara. So yeah, it is. It's exactly just a place to show off your. Hey, I was one of those people. I get it. I'm not knocking it. We all have our programming to break through, and yep, been there, done that. What can I say? I'm glad I grew up. That's all.
Well, yeah, we're all in that position where we believe. Our belief system is that that's the right thing to do. So even though you believe what you're doing is the right thing, doesn't make it right.
Exactly.
It doesn't make it the right thing to do. And a lot of times doing the right thing is painful.
Yeah. And really, I found a true test of strength is to be able to consider other alternatives, no matter what it is, whether it's someone you think looks funny or whether it's someone you think has a different belief. You know, for me, I want to know where it comes from, and I don't want to hurt anyone over, like these whole wars, and people want to kill people because of their beliefs. If we don't get them first, then they'll get us. And I just think that's crazy, because we're more alike than different, and we all have the same needs. And I'll just use for an example, LB, like that one thing you don't like about me, and that's totally okay, by the way.
Well,
I'm just pointing it out because no, the only reason I'm pointing it out is to show that you and I believe all the same things and pretty much do the same things, but we just use different words. And that's why people need to communicate over, well, what does this mean to you? So like the term conservatism, Democrat, like all of this, Republic, every word has been changed. Nice. You talk about this and the root words and, oh yeah, we're going to be nice, but what does that really mean? Like, we don't even really know. So the way we find out and solve problems is by asking the other person or whatever what they mean when these words are brought forth.
A lot of that, what you're saying there is true. They've changed a lot of words and definitions and meanings, and that gets back to that anarchy thing where there's so many different interpretations of it. But
Jay Castro in that video, who came to me and he says, I'm the absolute opposite of this woman. Well, guess what? When we talked after that and became dear friends, we were exactly the same. We were using different words, and we were coming from different programming, but so we didn't know. We both prejudged each other because we were part of a group that told us what to think about people standing on the other side of that line.
I'd like to read something here that was, it's from packinlaw.us bottom line.
All right.
The coalition empathizes that there are people who feel they must remain part of the rebellion. The rebellion is this insurgent government takeover as of the 14th Amendment, what we were just talking about, having to get driver's license and all that stuff. That aside, unity is still needed. We have put together an evolutionary plan for all people to come together, the PAC Alliance program. The main program points are: 1, build local communities; 2, correct the nationalities of people; and 3, watch what they are doing. The 2 primary points assist in taking back communities by building local economies. The people who correct their nationalities safeguard them from the legislation that purviews through the 14th Amendment system. Regrettably, as the situation exists, most people center on watching what their government is doing, but do nothing but complain and live in fear. This is what the adversary wants. So in regard to point 3, we will not just be watching we will be exposing their deeds through effective programs due to unity. We are not selfish sovereigns. We care about one another. We are building local communities. We are lawful bodies politic of the American Union. We want our countries back from the rebels. And this, like I said, this came from packinlaw.us bottom line. And what he's saying in here is watching the government and also basically taking them to task. Like he had said, LB had said prior in the conversation here that, there's a lot of folks that have had their status fixed, but they couldn't make it for one reason or another. It's because they weren't willing to reinvent themselves. They weren't willing to do what it takes to be a success at it. You can be successful at anything you want. I've been successful at a lot of things in my life, and the things that I weren't successful at, well, I just really didn't desire to be that successful at it. After going back and realizing and wiping away all that blame, because you can blame anybody for anything you want, but the fact of the matter is that you're responsible for everything in your life. And if you want this to work, you can make it work. And there's people there now that are in our system, in our society, in the State National Society, that have taken these individuals to task, these agencies to task, and they've overcome. They've gotten things that people could say, oh, well, you can't do that. Well, I got news for you. Yes, you can, but you have to have you got to have the status for it. You got to change your
standing.
Status.
Yes.
Your standing is what it is. It's just a standing.
Frank, we're almost out of time. I want
Okay,
Christie to wrap up how she can be contacted, her sites, etc.
Oh, okay. Darn, that went quick.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was really fun to be back here on radio, and thank you both for inviting me. Let's see. So to get a hold of me, I'm Christie Aphrodite everywhere, meaning Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram. I'm also a photographer, and I do sell my work, enlargements and greeting cards and postcards and things. And I've been getting in stores again and setting myself up with my own businesses again so I can take that next step again out of the system. Let's see. So PHRO-Zen Moments photo. Oh, you know what? Here's the best way for anyone to find me. Hashtag phrodiedhere. That's PHRO died, DIED here, HERE. And that came about when I died in the hospital and went on my journey to either die or heal myself. So yeah, and then my health and herb site, which, hasn't been updated, or my homelessradiomagic.com hasn't been. But again, now I'm settled and have internet. Hopefully that'll all get back. But mytrueessence.weebly.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Christie, for being here with us. I just want to remind everybody that we have a People's Awareness Coalition introductory call. HelloFreeConferenceCalling.com. The code number is 1231335. I hope to see you all there. Come on and we'll teach you the introduction to the PAC Coalition and help you answer any of your questions. We have a discussion at the end. Thanks for listening. Thanks. You, Revolution Radio. Thanks, LB.
Thank you all.